Good morning. I cannot hear you. Are you speaking?
There you go.
Can you hear us now? Can you hear us now, Lance?
Loud and clear. Thanks, Sam.
Good, and we are looking for Galena.
So I know that she's traveling down to Durango today because they were going to do the Santa train.
Nice.
I just texted her to see, but I knew that I think she was gonna be driving, so we'll see.
Okay, well, we can carry on.
Yes.
Good morning, San Miguel County. It is 10:01 on Monday, December 22nd, 2025. This is a special meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, essentially carrying over items we did not have time to get to last Wednesday. Calling this meeting to order. Roll call, you already heard a little bit about. I am here in the BOCC room. Commissioner Waring is online. We expect, there she is. Commissioner Gleason online. We have a few members of the staff in the room. And online, I don't see any members of the public, but maybe they'll show up. We will begin now with a moment of silence for grounding and gratitude. And while we're at it, let's all send good wishes to the ski patrol and the ski resort that they may resolve their differences today. Thank you. Reviewing the agenda looks pretty straightforward, and we've seen all this last week. Anybody have any adjustments or changes to make? No, okay. We will carry on then to public comment for items not on the agenda. As I said, there are no public in the room. And I don't see any online either. Any hands that I'm missing? Then I won't even bother with our statement. Public comment is open and closed. Consent agenda is empty, so we'll move on from that to administrative matters. 7A, consideration to certify levies and revenue for all tax entities for the year 2026. And I have a hard copy here. This was not attached to the agenda. Could someone email it to the other commissioners so they could take a peek
Yes,
if
I'll
they
do
haven't
that.
already received it?
Well, and commissioners, I was gonna walk through this and we can kind of talk a little bit about, we've got Ramona on and just talk a little bit about what this is, what we're doing. We did take a little extra time to get some clarifications from some special districts that are on our list. And so if you don't mind, I'll just share my screen. And we can kind of walk through the document.
That's great.
And then we can go from there.
Maybe even just remind, well, the public isn't on the call, but I was gonna say what we're doing here, but
Right.
that's okay. You carry it. You know what to do.
So, and Ramona, did you have anything in particular you wanted to lead with?
I did not. I just thank you for your patience, everyone, and rescheduling this meeting today and for the late backup. But I feel like the time was well spent and it was necessary to delay it a little bit. So I wanted to thank you for that opportunity for a little bit more time.
Well, thank you to our team for catching the issues that you did so that we could do this right the first time.
So before us today is the certification of levies and revenue by the county. So as we discussed at the last meeting, just to clarify, the process of tax collections in any given year is local governments certify. So when I say local governments, I mean our towns, our special districts, our school districts. Those boards act independently to certify the mill levy for each of their organizations. And then the county, as the collecting agency, collects all of those from all the districts. The Board of Commissioners then certifies all of those for the tax roll. We will, after this is certified by the board, we pass it to the assessor. She applies these rates against all the properties within San Miguel County based on their various classes and what districts they lie in. And then that tax roll ends up being passed to the treasurer for collections in the new year. So this is kind of one of our steps in our process that we take. So with that, this cover page is our certification of levies and revenue. We are county number 57 of the 64 in the state. So that is what it's all alphabetical. So
I always thought of us as number one.
well, we're number one, but alphabetically we're 57.
That'll
So but this gets sent, as you can see, to the assessor treasurer, the Division of Property Taxation, Department of Education, a number of other organizations. And the meat of this is, we'll go here to the summary page. I think I can go to the summary page. So this is the summary page, and again, this kind of shows each type of local government here in the first column. Their revenue for general operations, for contracts and bonds, any refunds or abatements, capital expenditure levies. This is something that's obviously not used in this county. And then the total revenue that each one of those classes of government will receive in the year. And so this is the page that the chair signs on an annual basis, and then we go through the other pages that go into more detail. So here on page 3, you can see this is the school district section. So you can see the different levies that have been certified for San Miguel County R1, that's the Telluride School District. R2JT, that is the Norwood School District, and then Dolores County RE2J, that is the Dolores County School District in Dove Creek, in the small area of our county that covers that, or is within that district. And you'll recall last year, that was one of the areas where we did not certify quite right the bond levy. And so thank you to Ramona and Paige both. They've scoured these numbers a few extra times to make sure we don't errantly transpose or mix some numbers as it goes. So so you can see on that left-hand side, you have the assessed value for the school districts, their levies, and over at the far right, you see their effective total mills and their total revenue that they will receive therefrom.
I have a question for the R2, the Norwood area.
Mhm.
Does that include the additional mill levy passed in November to bond the new school, or that probably doesn't kick in till a few years?
Actually, and Ramona, if you can clarify, I believe this 10.423 is at least in part that particular collection.
That is the new bond, the 10.423.
Oh, okay, so they're gonna start collecting that probably to start saving money for the school, is that right?
Correct. Yes, it's effective with 2026 collections.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, so those they may collect those, and then it will be kind of a down payment on their bond once they execute effectively. So so the second portion of that page is the San Miguel County levy, and so you can see how we have our general road and bridge, welfare, which is our human services, retirement, parks and open space, early childhood, mental health, and housing levies. On the left-hand side, those are the values that have been allotted by voter approval. And then to the right, you see the minor difference due to the temporary tax credit we are certifying there in the center of that. So our effective general levy for this year is 5.406 mils, and we're due to the revenue restrictions we have, we are pretty much foregoing $5 million or $1.5 million effectively from that new limit. So. Any questions about this page? Anyone?
Yes, is there a temporary tax credit indicated for the school districts? Oh, they're exempt,
Correct.
right, okay.
Yeah, they do not indicate their tax credit the same way and ultimately the school districts their certifications, they get the values from the State Department of Education. So they're kind of handed their what they need to certify and do that through their process.
Commissioners, any questions? On that page? Don't-
None for me, thanks.
All right, we'll go on to the next page, which is our towns within the county. So you can see all the towns listed here, their assessed value in that first column, then their kind of general levies and any credits. So this is where you see the temporary tax credits they're applying in this year. Similarly, they have bond levies, a column for bond levies, a column for abatements or refunds, a column for capital expenditures, and then their effective final levy to the far right, and the revenue that they receive therefrom. And if there are no questions, I'll keep running. Same thing for the special districts.
I just wanted to make a comment,
Sure.
sorry, so it looks like Mountain Village, they're a home rule municipality.
Mhm.
So they were also exempt from the 5.25, but it looks like they chose to issue a no levy credit regardless. Which I had heard discussed, okay.
Correct. And Town of Telluride has it in their town charter that prohibits their additional revenue capture beyond, I believe it's 7%.
Yeah.
And then Ophir is also home rule, but they did
Okay.
not certify, as you can see, they did not certify the credit.
And so going on the fifth page, we have statutory districts. So this includes Mountain Village Metropolitan, which they do still exercise a bond levy. Wilson Mesa Metro are fire protection districts, hospital district, Norwood Park and Rec, and Norwood Sand. And so these special districts, similarly, that first column is their assessed value. The second kind of grouping is their mill levy and any temporary tax credits that they are applying. Telluride Fire also has a revenue stabilization question that they certify for as well. Then you go on to bonds, refunds, capital expenditures, and then the effective levies in the far right column of all of those districts. And finally, on page 6 are the remaining districts. So that includes the Lone Tree Cemetery, the library district here, Lone Cone Library in Norwood, Southwest Water Conservation District, of which we are a part. They're the regional water conservation district. And then San Miguel Water Conservation District, that's our basin district. Solid waste, which we certify as well. And so you can see the general and the temporary tax credit for the solid waste disposal district that we certified. The recreation district, which is 0, and then finally SMART is the very last one on the line. So same setup, the effective mill levies are all right. So and all of these numbers roll up to our summary page. So so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and Ramona's here to answer questions as well. We would just ask for the board's action to approve the chair's signature on this certification.
Where could members of the public find this document? Since it wasn't attached to the agenda, or maybe it will get attached.
So I think what I had hoped is to walk through it, we'll attach it to the agenda after the fact. And then once it's certified, it does go to DOLA. We could probably find, we may have a place on the website already where this lives.
We could put it under our budget tab.
Budget tab, okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect. I think this is very clearly laid out. I appreciate it so much. Galena and Lance, any questions or comments?
No, I mean, considering we just are getting a look at this, I'm just quickly scanning to make sure there's nothing else that I have questions on, but it is clearly laid out and yeah, some of those mill levy credits, well, specifically from Mountain Village, I'm just processing those amounts here. Yeah, I think it all makes sense and looks good. Lance, do you have anything?
No questions, but I'm ready to make a motion whenever the board is with me.
Almost there. One question, can you remind us what revenue stabilization means? I see that in a couple of places, like fire district, target fire district.
So you recall that we as a county passed a revenue stabilization levy, which these revenue stabilization levies are levies where when the state legislature adjusts, particularly the residential assessment ratio, there have been questions asked to allow these organizations to adjust their levies when the valuation declines as a result. And so in this case, the revenue stabilization levy most applicable, I think, is the Telluride Fire Protection District. And so they calculate a kind of a lost amount of revenue because of the legislative change in values. I can't remember the exact numbers. Residential assessment ratio has gone down year over year. I think is around 6.2% now. And so whenever that goes down, they adjust their rate upward to make the difference. And that's kind of how those levies work. We did not exercise the revenue stabilization because the 5.25% limit that we are subject to kind of puts a bit of a cap on our ability to do that anymore.
But they were exempted in the legislation from that fire districts and school districts
And homeroom municipalities.
and homeroom municipalities, which is why they got to keep theirs.
Yeah, they did issue a mill levy credit. Like about a mill.
Theirs is a pretty nuanced picture.
Okay, we won't go into
and-
details here.
And so they said, well, we talked with our attorney about that. And we said, great, as long as you guys are clear, this is what you certify.
Okay.
And that's kind of what we had spent that extra time doing, just double checking with most districts that they got the right numbers, that they certified temporary tax credits when where they wanted to. Because for some folks, it's a kind of a new exercise.
Thank you. All right, that's all I got.
Same here. Thanks for that explanation. I move to approve resolution 2025-44, levying property taxes for the year 2025 to help defray the costs of government for San Miguel County for the 2026 budget year.
I'll second.
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
I as well. Ramona, you have a comment.
Sorry, what your motion is just to approve this certification of revenue and levies. You had already approved resolution 2025-44 actually last week. So this is just the approval of so I don't know how it got on the agenda. I didn't review.
Actually, I think it is a little different on the agenda from what was read.
It's just its consideration to certify the tax levies and revenues for all taxing entities for the year 2026.
So
I
moved.
apologize.
Okay, so we are going to renege that vote. Is there something we need to do?
Just withdraw the
With-
motion,
with-
make a new one.
Okay, well, Galena, are you okay to withdraw that motion? and
Yes,
make a new one?
yes. I withdraw the motion I just made. Apologies.
I'll try a different one. I move to certify levies and revenue for all taxing entities for the year 2026.
I second that.
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
As well, the motion carries. Ramona, thank you, and Jared, and everybody else who leaned into this, Mike, and all the districts.
Thank you. And yes, we'll get a signed copy onto the website, and Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you so much.
You too, Ramona. Hope you get a nice break.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to item 8, Department of Human Services. Hello, the probably somewhat weary Linnea and Alex.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning, Linnea and Alex.
Yeah, so on our agenda this morning with you all, we have just wanting to update the commissioners around conversations taking place around the districting conversation at the state level, where we are and what's going on with that in their process at the state level, try to field any questions and hopefully schedule more conversations as we continue to work through this process. And so just a handful of kind of things that I wanna point out. So CHSDA, so the Colorado Human Services Directors Association, has been meeting with the state since the Thursday after CCI, so December 4th. We've been meeting with the state on a very high level. We have 9 elected directors that are doing that in each region, trying to, 1, understand the proposal and 2, give feedback to any changes that could be put forward in that proposal. I think the first point that I want to make is that the county's directors, we understand there needs to be some change. We understand that we've got some federal mandates that have been put upon us through HR 1, and we need to make some changes. We're asking the state to be conscientious in some of those changes for our clientele locally, along with our staff, and what that looks like on a local basis. Some of those ideas and asks have been around training and our modernization with our technology, along with the timeline. They initially proposed a very quick timeline in this. So they're proposing 11 districts across the state of Colorado. Currently, we are sitting in the Southwest District. Those counties include San Miguel, Ouray, Dolores, Montezuma, La Plata, San Juan, and Archuleta counties. I'm not opposed to that districting group. The group of us being with that southwest corner, we have similar philosophies, similar clientele, similar populations, similar caseloads. We felt like it made a lot of sense for us to be willing to kind of just move forward in that agreement. With currently the state is recognizing La Plata, which is the biggest county in that district, as maybe the hub. So they're looking at having hubs. So one county would oversee the fiscal and the kind of management of our eligibility programs. So those eligibility programs that will be included will be our Medicaid, our SNAP, our adult financial, any of our long-term care Medicaid, and our TANF programming. Will all be included in that kind of districting population, leaving child welfare, adult protection, child care, and child support within each county office. So that's kind of how they've talked about this.
Lynette, can you just go over that one more time? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
The services that would be handled by the district in the hub. I had Medicaid, SNAP, TANF, what were the others?
Adult financial and long-term care.
And then we would retain
Child welfare, adult protective services, child care, and child support.
would you know why they made that distinction?
It really comes down to a lot of the clawbacks that will occur at the end of next federal fiscal year surrounding HR1. So during HR1, most of the changes made to the human services systems will be on our eligibility or our economic security programming. And so in their decision making, they move those. I'm not quite sure where adult protection services, child welfare, CCAP, and child support sit in that decision, but they are not moving with the districts.
I think just another piece to note that this districting model has been, it's pulled from Wisconsin, their modeling. And Wisconsin is hub run for economic security, but county runs still with, child welfare, APS. And so I think with their modeling with Wisconsin, they're also trying to follow that, that side as well.
There have been a handful of smaller groups meeting on top of this really high level department or high level director group looking at process. So how are we going to do this in a process? What does it look like? Looking at fiscal, what does the money look like? And then there's been a legal group meeting at the kind of at the county attorney level. And so all of those things have been kind of taking place simultaneously. Again, the directors learned about the districting conversation the Friday before Thanksgiving, so the 22nd, so a month ago. And it was somewhat of a surprise in the conversation for us. And then we just really quickly had to jump on board to start trying to understand it. The directors have written a letter to CCI, and CCI has in turn followed up with a letter to the governor's office since all of this has started. And our pressing concerns right now are the technology. We can't talk to each other in a lot of ways. We can't. The idea is that work is to be shared across the districts, that a Dolores County worker could do a San Miguel County case and vice versa, that it's shared across the districts. And currently we can't talk. Our main system is full of flaws, full of bugs, constantly having issues and slowdowns. So we're proposing that the state, through their joint interoperability programming, which is their technology side for human services, to please work on that first. Please work on that first so that we can all talk. And it hasn't happened yet. So there was a meeting on Friday with the larger kind of head, like the high level directors. The initial timeline proposed was about 18 months. That they would launch the first county in July of 2026 and finish launching the counties by July of 2027. They made an agreement in that group to extend that timeline a little bit, at least the launching of the counties to be in districts, giving the counties and the state a year to plan. So they're giving us until July of 2027 to plan and put things together, fiscally, process wise, what the districts look like. There's going to be a ton of contracting they're proposing between the hub district and the other districts, and what that looks like. What that looks like for staff, what that looks like for our community, how they're going to have access. So all of those things they're saying will be planned out in that first year along with the technology. So that's been extended. They have shortened the implementation time. So they're saying from July 2027 to January 2028 is when all counties will jump on board in that districting. They propose that our Southwest district would be implementing in September of 2027. And then everybody will be up and running spring of 28. That they're all contracts. There will be no kind of nobody's waiting to jump into that district conversation. And so they have addressed a couple of the requests that the Human Services Directors Association asked for. And that's the technology. They are going to push that for this year to try to build that technology. And the timing. We asked for more time. They're still feeling like there's not a lot of time because of the clawbacks coming from the federal government. They are continue to tell us that this is not a initially a cost saving process. However, the fiscal model that they're proposing does show cost savings, but in the next few years. So there eventually is some cost savings to this. The reason this also came about is that we, meaning Human Services as a whole, overspend our admin allocation in Human Services and in Medicaid HCPF significantly across the state. And in San Miguel County, we overspend every year. It's not, we are under allocated for the programming that needs to happen, as is almost every other county in the state. So that's kind of their biggest piece. I think the thing that's important is that we have to be really thoughtful of our rural presence, right? We're stretched thin as it is. We have small staff, we have caseloads that need to be met. But I think that it's really important that we keep kind of talking about that rural presence, talking about how difficult it can be to get from one place to another within our counties, that we have giant mountain passes between us, that we, just really keeping that presence important at the state level. It is kind of those big things. So again, specifically, we've been put in that Southwest hub. We're looking at being phased in September of 2027. And I think what we need from Human Services, from you all, is really to be able to continue to have this discussion, to be able to continue to give the information that the directors are discussing and what's important, so that it can be carried on to CCI, so that it can be carried on. The proposal was sent out this morning for directors to review. It needs to go to the governor's office today, for it to start its process through the legislative committee starting on January 6th. So we are there. I mean, the runway for that is gone, but the process of creating the rest of it is still there. And so whatever I can take back from you all and your concerns, and you can take to CCI and other organizations, would be really helpful. Again, I'm not sure that this just isn't inevitable. I really am not sure that there will be a reverse from this pathway. If there is, we'll deal with that and maybe kind of wave our hands and go, okay, here we go forward. If there's not, we'll kind of grin and bear it and work through how to keep our clients, keep our citizens in the services that they need, along with, my staff, which is important. So though that's kind of where it sits. I'm open to some questions. A lot of those are I don't knows. I've also been pretty transparent with my staff. They know that this is being talked about. It's really important. This affects them as well. And what could or couldn't happen to some employment possibility. We don't know. Again, we don't know what that looks like, but it is something that I felt really important to be transparent with them about.
Thanks, Linnea. I've been following along with this pretty closely and attended the CCI session on the 12th and voted in favor of submitting that letter to the governor on behalf of CCI for San Miguel County. So I want to defer to the other commissioners to ask their questions. I've been asking a lot of questions of you the last couple of weeks while we've been sitting in on this. And I just want to say I really appreciate your engagement and your thoughtfulness through this rigmarole that we've been navigating. And I appreciate your nimble response to all of this, because it's been a lot to process. And like you say, there's more questions than answers at this point, and we're going to have to just be innovative and try to take care of our people the best we can with this all rolling out.
Thanks for staying on top of this, Galena. Really appreciate you doing so. And I know you started to get educated on it at the conference and have continued. Really appreciate that. Lance, do you have any questions for Linnea or Galena?
I don't. It seems like Linnea is getting an uncertain Christmas, as is her staff, and that's not a fun present, but I agree that this is got a lot of steam and we aren't going to stop it. So it feels like we're going to understand it as it rolls out and work with it.
I've been following a CCAT chat about this, and there are a couple questions I have, and maybe you don't know, but there's a rumor there that counties may opt out of the district system. Is that true?
No, so no county can opt out of the district system. What you can do is a county can choose to no longer do their own eligibility. So you would opt out in the sense that your employees could all become hub employees is what we're understanding, and that the county would be responsible for maintaining one in-office, front desk office presence. But that all the eligibility work could be done solely by the hub, and you wouldn't have eligibility workers. So they could stay county employees within our current county system, or the county could say, yeah, we're not going to do that. They'll just all become hub employees. So those are two options that have been laid out.
I think the other potential opt-out could be if you've been assigned to be a hub county, such as La Plata, you could opt out to not be that, and then the counties within the hub can decide who would be that hub county. So there's a little flexibility in that.
They've also allowed us to be a little bit flexible in having conversations around what those districts are, which is why I didn't push back on being with the Southwest and encourage us to be with the Northwest. I didn't think, I felt just philosophically it made more sense for us to be in the Southwest.
Another question I have is regarding the federal clawbacks. There's a conversation about whether the state will cover those clawbacks, meaning like the money that we don't receive because of a potentially high error rate, money we don't receive from the feds. And there've been chatter about that cost being passed down to the counties. And yet the counties feeling like they don't necessarily have control over how much that will be because it's assessed on a state level or something. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, correct.
That's
So
going to be a real financial impact for us, or could be.
Yeah, so it's our payment error rate is what's being tracked specific to SNAP right now. And so that started to be tracked in October. It's a state number that comes up. We get through federal reviews of our SNAP cases. Currently, Colorado is above the agreed upon percentage. So we, as of right now, will have to pay back or not receive, however that works, right? Some SNAP funding. I have also read and heard that could be passed down to the counties. How that is looking, I don't know. I think, again, with you, Commissioner, the counties are like, wait a second, hold on. If we're a county that is within that limit of PER, then do we not owe any money? Is it going to be the total money? What does that look like? And I think those are a lot of the questions. Those fiscal questions are huge right now. I think the other piece of the fiscal on top of that, Commissioner, is our 20%, right? So currently in our current fiscal system, the counties are responsible for 20% of human services. How does that look when we're all in a hub? When La Plata County or Montezuma County is the hub county and they're receiving the allocations. So the question is, how does each county then provide their specific amount paid, that 20%, and what is it based on? So there's a lot of fiscal questions. We've had a handful of fiscal conversations. Again, they've put models together. It's not maybe the picture of today or even a year from now, what that looks like. They are saying that our allocations will be the same. We will not see a reduction in our allocation this coming fiscal year. So in July, while we're working through this process, and I don't know if that will change. I mean, we have new administration that will come in during this process. We'll have a new governor during this process, so again, it's the I don't knows, and I'm not sure what will change or what will happen, but feel that it's really necessary at this point. The directors are feeling really necessary at this point to really try to be as transparent with our board, with our commissioner boards as possible, and see where we can push and where our partnership with the state can be levied a little bit, and we can gain some traction and some things that we need. We do feel like we got a couple wins last week, and expanding the timing and understanding that that technology is so important.
Linnea, I'm sorry, this is a big background question. You say counties are currently responsible for 20% of human services. Is that the administrative costs or the actual benefits or both?
It's an overall, so the state provides 50%, or sorry, the feds provide 50%, the state provides another 40, I can't do math, so give me a second, another
30.
And then the counties are responsible for 20% of the overall human services operating costs.
Operating costs, not the benefits themselves, but the administration of the benefits?
Yes.
Okay. And when you say this fiscal year, we will not see a change in allocations, does that mean that the state will continue to pay 30, the feds 50, and the county 20?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. But we are getting less, I believe, SNAP administrative costs from the feds starting at some point based on HR1, right?
Correct. Yeah, that'll be based on our PER or our payment error rate as a state, what we'll get versus what we'll have to pay back. I'm not sure how the math works there.
Got it. So everything, the clawback or whatever it's called from the feds is based on our SNAP error rate, but it applies to all of the programs or other
No.
programs, or does it just apply to SNAP?
So the PER will specifically apply to our SNAP benefit. And so that's the payment error rate. There is also another clawback happening with the state in an error rate with Medicaid. So that is, so I'm presenting the districting to you all. However, there is also another pathway happening at the same time through centralized services. So Medicaid is, or HCPF is promoting a centralized services concept where they would take 4 of the services that every county is supposed to be doing and make them centralized at a state level. So that would include fraud, quality assurance, scanning, and a tier 1 call center. So that's kind of working this way. This districting is, they're kind of working in parallel processes, all trying to achieve similar goals of reducing those error rates. And in my opinion, some possible cost savings because we are significantly as a state overspend administration.
So, Linnea, I'd like to just weigh in on some logistics that I foresee coming with these centralized systems, and that we might have to see some staff reduction, hopefully not, right? But what I'm foreseeing, especially given our very rural geographic setting here and lack of ability for our residents to access public transportation and even technology. So there's these kind of like geographic barriers, and that's where our staff really comes in and do like actually physically go to people's residence and help folks navigate these very complex systems. And I mean, I know we have a lot of concerns about this, and once again, not many answers, but I'm foreseeing there still being a need for our residents to kind of have some hand holding to navigate these systems with potential reduction in staff. And I see that as being one of the major challenges we're going to face here, is still needing to serve our people and help them where they're not able to access these streamlined systems that might be easier in a more kind of metro setting where people have access to technology and transportation and so on and so forth. So, I mean, I'm kind of just like processing out loud to everyone what I've been foreseeing as being a real challenge for us is still needing a certain level of staff to serve our people, but having some fiscal impact that might necessitate reduction in staff.
And I don't disagree with you, Commissioner. I think that's absolutely the case. I think that is a reality that the rural and frontier counties are talking about, that they are, we're not the only one that struggles with some geographical problems along with access and having workers go to people's houses to help fill out a Medicaid application. I mean, that happens in a lot of our rural communities. I can think of a specific person that was living out in the western part of the county that would go to the Dolores County Human Services. We'd get a call. They'd say, hey, we're going through our mail with her. You want to be on the phone with us? It's those kind of things, those stories that I think are really important to tell, so that people see, like, people know us. They want to talk to Amy in Norwood. They want to come in and they want to have a conversation with Ariana and Telluride. And I think like those are really important stories to tell. I think I was talking with another worker saying like, oh man, like this specific person like really it would be not a great situation for them to not just come to our door and have a conversation with us, whether it's about something that doesn't matter, but just that human contact within the county that they feel comfortable with. So there are those pieces that I think are really important, to those stories that are really important to tell, that the bigger counties, they already have tier one call centers at the big county levels. People are already calling big call centers before they're getting to their case manager, and work in a rural small county functions differently. I think my pragmatic side sees that there are some benefits to this districting idea and the centralized services idea. My human services heart says, "Ooh, man, there's some problems and some holes and some gaps."
Precisely. And we're just going to have to be as adaptable as we can while taking care of our people in the process.
Agreed.
Well, Linnea, thank you so much and Alex for keeping us up to date, and Commissioner Waring will take over as chair starting about January 8th. So just be in touch with him regarding when you want to come and update us, and I imagine he would be open to whenever that would be helpful to you.
I appreciate that, commissioners.
Thank you both for carrying this heavy load right now. Okay, we need to go on then to item 8B, which is consideration of the chair's signature on the Department of Human Services balance sheet for September 2025, earned revenue and expenditures through electronic benefit transfers October 2025, check register for the month of October 2025, county allocation / MOE report September 2025, and the 2025 caseload reports.
I have nothing really to point out in our financials reports. They're pretty standard right now.
Alrighty, any questions from any of the other commissioners on this? I did not have any myself.
No questions here.
No, but since we've got Linnea on, I just wanted to weigh in. At a recent ECAP meeting. 3 kids came off the CCAP wait list. Just wanted to report on that. And
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I remember that now that I don't have my actual caseload report right in front of me. But yes, we were looking at that happening in October and hoping to see those numbers change in November. And so that happened. And so we'll see that shift and that kids coming off that wait list and receiving CCAP. So we were glad. in December, thank you, Alex. They'll be receiving CCAP in December. So we were glad to see that happening and seeing some shifts in those wait lists so that we could actually track that in real time instead of just being stagnant.
So looking at the caseload report under childcare for November, it indicates 31 families being served with 5 on the wait list, but it sounds like that might be 34 and 2. Is that right for December?
In December, 3 will be coming off, or 3 will be coming off the caseload, 3 will be coming off of the wait list.
Yeah, so we'll see 3 come off the caseload, like the kids being served, and 3 coming on to the wait list. So it's kind of, we'll still have those. Alex knows those numbers better than I do.
Those families that are no longer being served by CCAP, that's due to we're getting better reports from the state which children are being served via UPK, those dual enrollment families. And so we were able to identify 3 families that are receiving 30 hours of UPK. So it's not like those families are no longer being served. They're just getting assistance from the UPK program. I think several of those families, I'm blanking on it. Their like CCAP fee that they pay was really high. So it was actually cheaper for them to just pay those last 10 hours rather than be on the CCAP program. So we're kind of seeing, when we initially started this conversation and we were saying not stacking and all those conversations that we had about the funding sources, we're actually seeing that working now, where we're utilizing UPK first. Now we're using CCAP funds. And so we're getting into a better groove with that. And now that's what we're being able to see some movement on that wait list. So
Thanks for that clarification.
She understands those numbers better than I do. I'm not in that program very often.
That's okay, that's her job. So then in December, we would anticipate that caseload report being like 31 with 2 on the wait list. Is that how that
Yes.
works? Okay, that's good. All right, I think if there are no further questions, I'm ready for a motion on item 8B.
May I move to simply approve item 8B, or should I read it in its entirety?
I like the simpler approach.
Let's try it. I move to approve item 8B.
I second that.
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye as well. Item 8B is approved. Thank you, Lene and Alex. I hope you get a little peace and quiet over the next few days.
Thank you, commissioners, and happy holidays.
Likewise. Moving on to item 9A, Building Department. Presentation of the 2024 Building Code to be adopted in April of 2026. Hello, Matt Gonzalez, building official.
Hello there, commissioners. Thanks for your time. I did not, I was going to make some slides. I decided not to, just because I want to have a conversation with you guys. I don't think it needs to be that long. But I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you guys have regarding the plan for our code adoption, code updates next year. So I did give you what? Sorry. I sound like a human voice. My apologies. There's a memo in the packet for you all to kind of read and digest. I tried to keep it as simple as I could. I'm going to pause. I'm gonna pause for the maintenance here. I cannot do 2 things at one time. And I'm watching Jared fix a table.
If you aren't distracted by that water bottle, now you're.
I know.
It's not 100%, but it's there.
Okay, facility maintenance achieved.
All right.
Anyway.
So anyway, back to the code stuff. So in the packet there was a memo with kind of some 4 different kind of scenarios that we, effectively you all could choose to pursue or direct us to pursue. The scenarios for code adoption and timelines kind of revolve around, again, as a reminder, the obligation to adopt certain codes that have been created and mandated by the state, and how we kind of dance around those timelines. So, again, we've talked about, we've, just as a reminder, regionally, we've committed to trying to adopt new code cycles every 6 years. So basically, the ICC publishes code cycles every 3 years. So we skip one and adopt another. And we try to do that, to have modern and safe and good code standards. And also we strive to be regionally aligned with our codes as well. So where we're at, we had previously planned on adopting, adopting our new code by the spring of this upcoming year in 2026. What's going on is, locally here, the town of Mountain Village and town of Telluride have decided to hold off on a portion of that code, which is the adoption of the state's low energy and carbon code. I'm going to call that from now on the LECC. Yep. So we can walk through these scenarios if you'd like. I would like to just skip this scenario 4. And here's the thing. I'm recommending out of these 4 scenarios that we continue on with scenario 4. This is what would happen under scenario 4. No later than April 1st, we will adopt the Colorado Wildfire Resistant Construction Code, which is a requirement. We have no option on that. So we have to adopt that code by then, by law, and we have to enforce it no later than July 1st. So that's got to happen. Like, that's happening no matter what we do. Okay.
And that's happening in the towns as well.
Everywhere across the state. Yep. And just as a side note, we will be enforcing that across our county. However, we do have the ability to, we've received confirmation at the state level that however one jurisdiction enforces their code, they may follow the same procedure for enforcing the wildfire resistant construction code. Meaning, in the West End Zone District, where we don't have any building code that's enforced, our enforcement mechanism in the West End is going to be a letter sent out to all the West End residents notifying them of the code and that it's their responsibility to be in compliance with it. And we'll give them some information where to find those code standards. It's effectively the same as like the plumbing code and electrical code out in the West End. It's incumbent upon the owners to know the code and be in compliance with it. So again, the Colorado Wildfire Resistant Construction Code will be adopted and enforced by those dates. No later than July 1st next year, and that's for all of us. What we're going to do with the rest of the code, the building code. So we're talking our residential construction code, our commercial construction code, our energy codes. We want to pause and kind of extend our decision time up to make a decision before July 1st of 2026. So again, here's what's going on. The towns don't have a target date for when they're going to adopt the LECC, or if they're even going to at this time. We don't think it's prudent for San Miguel County to go out and take a progressive lead on adopting the state's LECC, the Low Energy and Carbon Code. We would feel more comfortable if we fell in line with the town of Telluride. They're currently enforcing the 2024 International Energy Code, which is normal, given years past. So and the town of Mountain Village doesn't have a plan at all for adopting the LECC or not. They are waiting to get direction from their town council on what they're going to be directed to do as it pertains to energy code specifically. So if we do this, basically it'll give us time between now and June-ish of next year to have a better understanding of what the two towns are poised to do with their code adoption as it pertains to the energy code specifically. We also are participating in a grant group cohort with not only the two towns here in our little valley, Telluride and Mountain Village, but also Ridgeway, Ouray County, San Juan, and Silverton, San Juan County. The way that the grant has been awarded, it is contingent for us to receive those funds, be able to keep those funds. We do have to adopt the LECC no later than July 1st. If we fail to meet that target, we don't get to keep the grant funds. To date, we haven't drawn on the grant at all. So if we have to give it back, I mean, it's not, we're not going to be in any hot water at this point in that regard. I did send this memo, and then subsequently we did have a grant cohort meeting in which we did discuss the possibility of asking for a grant extension to the end of 2026 that would kind of allow us more time. My understanding is more time to kind of make a decision. Regarding, again, regionally, are we going to move forward with the state's LECC, or are we going to stay committed to the traditional International Code Council codes as it revolves around energy code? So that's scenario 4 in a nutshell. Again, it's effectively, we're going to adopt the wildfire resistant construction code and kind of hang out and wait until later in 2026, around the end of Q1. So the 2018 code cycle with amendments, we always, it is noteworthy to say we do make amendments to the code. Each jurisdiction does. Each jurisdiction has their own take on what their goals are for any amendment, but relative specifically to energy code. Just for example, the town of Telluride requires snow melting mechanisms in the bottom of window wells. So they always stuff that in their code. Like we don't. We just don't have that amendment. So that's what I mean with amendments, just a couple of changes to our code. I did receive an email this morning from Mike Bordonia with a person that had asked if we had quantified quantified the impact of construction costs related to adoption of the new codes. The answer to that question is no. We haven't done our own quantification. There are statistics online. It's effectively, the short answer is upfront, there's increased costs for materials depending on which type of energy code pathway you choose. But on the back end, there are, annual savings associated with increased efficiency as it pertains to systems in the building envelope. So I can try to talk more about that if you'd like. I know that is there. When people express doubt about adopting newer and more progressive codes, especially energy code, that is a very common concern, is increased cost. I know in our energy code cohort meetings, I think one of the things that we struggle with as code officials is that ambiguity. We hear from the people that we serve, which are commonly builders or residents, about the burdens of increased and more complex code requirements. And a lot of things can incur cost. It could be materials. It could also be a lack of understanding on how to implement the codes or what's required. So we are engaging. Part of the grant funding does include numerous training sessions for not only for us as code officials, but for the building community and the residents to understand how the code is supposed to work and what they need to be aware of, so that some of those costs can be mitigated. But as far as our own internal audit of how construction costs are impacted by the codes, we have not done that. And I don't even know how we would go about that, frankly. So I'm happy to look into that if that's everyone's direction. But I hadn't planned on doing that. We haven't done it before, and I'm not sure that anyone around here has ever done anything like that. So it would be a lot of researching what other people have done and kind of pulling, I guess, secondhand statistics in that regard.
Matt, has either the state or the international
So yeah, let's just say that
they've done those analyses? Can we direct our constituents to those analyses?
so we've
I
had
mean,
to
understand conceptually what the intention is, but have they crunched any of these numbers?
not that I'm aware of. We've seen side by side like code charts where one code referenced in one code book, how it's different in the newer version or the LECC version. There's not been a cost associated with that change, like a fiscal impact, as it were.
Mhm.
So again, to my knowledge, that's not been done. That's not a definitive. It hasn't been done. I just am not aware of it if it has. I do know, again, in speaking with some of my colleagues with in the town of Mountain Village, that according to that source, that the town of Mountain Village town council members, at least a few of them, are concerned with very concerned with impact on the bottom line to construction projects, and that they at least a couple of them, I've been told, are not in favor of doing anything that would incur additional construction costs, just given the nature of how everything is challenging. And when we talk about all the fees that are charged and requirements, and it's not getting any easier. And the fact that inflation post-COVID has driven up the cost of building materials, it does feel really hard, harder than it did 5 years ago to do a project with just at a lower cost. It's harder.
But at some point, we will be quote unquote forced to adopt the LECC, right?
Right. So
So we have to, yeah.
as it is right now, when the state, when the bill was passed to mandate the creation of the wildfire code, they wrote into it that they recognized that by requiring a jurisdiction to adopt that code, they may be it may they didn't want to avoid a jurisdiction having to adopt the LECC only to be in compliance with the wildfire code requirement. So what that means is the state's allowing everyone to adopt the wildfire code, the wildfire resistant construction code, and not have to adopt right now. If that's the only portion of the code that we are changing, we don't have to adopt the LECC. After July 1st of 2026, if we amend our building code in any way, shape, or form, we must then adopt the LECC as our minimum energy code. So if we make a decision, like I said, by Q1 of next year, and our decision is because of the ambiguity that's not ambiguity, because of our regional lack of understanding of how people will be affected by the code. And if we do choose to just go forward with the 2024 international codes like we always have, then we would be adopting an energy code, the 2024 energy code, before that window to require the adoption of LECC, and we could sit on the 2024 code as long as we wanted to and be in compliance with state law. Does that make sense? So again, in short, the recommendation from us is to plan on adopting the wildfire resistant construction code as we're required to and kind of hang low for a few more months and see what everyone else decides to do. And in the meantime, we'll have more cohort meetings. We'll get together, we'll talk. We have one in the books for January to kind of January, February. I forget the date off the top of my head, but to block out about 4 hours and kind of have a knockdown drag out of like, what are our concerns with the LECC versus the 2024 energy code? You know, and try to get to the bottom of some of our concerns so that we can have a confident path moving forward, and we can help the people we serve understand the codes. So we are not just going to be waiting. We're going to be actively pursuing like resolution and try to get on the same page as our regional partners.
Commissioner Waring.
Thanks, Ann, and thank you, Matt. I've been following this with you. I appreciate your explanation of where we sit, and I think option 4 is the right path.
Commissioner Gleason? Would you like to weigh in? We can't hear you. While we get her technology straightened out, I would agree with Commissioner Waring to pursue scenario 4.
Okay.
How's that?
There.
Good.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, knowing that Commissioner Waring attends those Sneffels Energy Board meetings and has had his finger on the pulse very closely here, I was wanting to hear his feedback, and hearing that he is also in support of moving forward with with scenario 4 at this point. That sounds good to me. I do just have a question about the potential extension of that grant, because if at some point we're needing to adopt the LECC, I think utilizing state funds to help facilitate that process would be a really good thing. Matt, and I'm sorry if I missed this in your presentation, when would we find out about potential extension for that grant funding?
So again, we did so Kim Wheels, who's on, and I suppose you may want to hear from her after I'm done talking. But she brought up the possibility of a grant extension. I don't know a ton about it, frankly. We just talked about it, and I had asked specifically in our meeting, let's find out what that looks like. If what would be required to successfully extend the grant if we needed to. And so at this point, I don't know if it's going to be possible or not. It's just, it was thrown out in a conversation that we'd had in a cohort meeting. So I wouldn't know the terms. I'm not sure what Kim may or may not know as well.
Hi, Kim. Would you like to contribute something to this conversation? Thanks for being here.
Sure, I absolutely can. Thank you. So we did talk with the CEO about extending the grant. The timeline for requesting that would be in a few months, since we still have over 6 months at the moment. But it's likely that if we can show or know at that time that governments are planning on adopting the LECC and just need more time to move forward with the full adoption process, then that would be the reason for us requesting the extension, so that we can utilize the grant funding to fully support each of the governments that has not yet adopted it to go through the full process. So that's the current plan, is to continue to work with things as we are, but with that plan in mind, which would likely be the case, with option 4 here of, if San Diego County was decided in April or May that to adopt the LECC, then we would want to extend the grant to support through the timeline for adoption.
Another thing that I had written and I forgot to mention was whichever outside of the Colorado Wildfire Resistant Construction Code, because that has its own timelines for implementation and enforcement. Anything else that we adopt, we are going to recommend strongly that that the code would be enforced a year after the resolution is signed, to give people ample time, again, to, in a lot of cases, begin the redesign process for their projects. So I've said this before, but it's December 22nd, 2025. So right now, I mean, depending on the complexity and the size of the home, anyone that's planning on submitting for a permit in 1 year from right now, that home is already like probably nearing design completion. And so for us to switch the codes now, it's hard. It is hard. And oftentimes as it pertains to energy code compliance, for sure. So again, we're going to switch the code, not switch the code, but adopt a newer code. And it's just on the front end, it's more stringent. So people have to look at their window packages and redesign those, and their mechanical systems, and so it's hard to do that when things are already designed. So again, we're whatever we end up doing outside of the wildfire code, we're going to strongly recommend again that the code be enforced a year from when the resolution is signed.
Good sense. Matt, just really quickly, what's the, I didn't see mentioned in here, maybe I did, state model electric ready and solar ready codes. When do they have to get adopted by, or is that part of the LECC?
No, so those, well, right now, they are separate codes. So if we were to amend our code now, like to say we're going to stay on the 2018 code cycle, but we want to change it a little bit. We're within the window now where we have to adopt the electric ready and the solar ready code. I guess my understanding is, and Kim's still, she may know more than I do in this. My understanding was, if we simply adopt the wildfire resistant construction code as we're required to do and do nothing else, we would not be required to adopt the solar ready and electric ready code with the wildfire code. If I'm wrong, Kim can correct me. If she's quiet, that means I was right.
I'll chime in and say you are correct. The wildfire code does not trigger any updates to the energy code, but any other code update or adoption would trigger the requirements for the energy codes. Right now, what's required would be the 2021 IECC plus the solar ready and electric ready codes. As of July 1st, the requirement would be the 2024 IECC, the low energy and carbon code, which includes the electric ready and solar ready codes. So they've been incorporated into the low energy and carbon code for the LECC. So it makes it one streamlined package adoption.
Okay, so we've heard from all three commissioners that we are in favor of scenario 4. Is that all you need from us, Matt?
Yeah, again, and any questions that you have or want to have answers for, I know people are going to probably continue to reach out to you. So we want to provide as much information as we can to both you and any members of the public that have questions about this. And that's today or tomorrow or whenever they come to you. So feel free to please pass those as you think of them, those questions along to me, and we'll get some information to you. And I will say it's become more complex with now that the state is beginning to mandate certain codes through the revised statutes. That there's timelines written into them, and they can be a little hopscotchy, to be frank. And so it's not the easiest thing in the world to understand, like when what's required if we do what. So again, if those questions pop up or if something doesn't make sense after you walk out of here today, just reach out and we'll get on the agenda again and provide some clarification if needed to.
Great. And just one quick thing, thinking back to the email that Mike received today, obviously, if there's any financial analysis that becomes available, let all of us know so that we can share that if anybody has questions, but understood that's not available right now.
Okay, yeah, we're working on some in different ways, some kind of public outreach information and stuff. So we'll work to not only get some specific data as it pertains to Colorado's LECC, but also just generally, you know, upfront kind of average costs with code cycle associated and like back end energy savings as it's measured as best we can. So we'll have that available for folks to view soon.
Great. And when that is available, just let the commissioners know if you would.
Okay.
Lance, hand was up and down. You all good?
Yep, you answered my question, Matt. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Matt, thank you very much. And Kim also, oh yes, one more thing from you.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in and say, and apologize for countering you, Matt, but there is cost analysis available from the CEO comparing the 2021 IECC to the 2024 IECC. And the low energy and carbon code was not allowed to be more stringent than the 2024 IECC. There are improvements made. There's ways that it is an easier code to enforce. There's all kinds of further details that I could go into, but I won't. But that cost analysis does exist between the 2021 to the 2024. Matt, that's in the resource repository spreadsheet that has so many different things in it that you probably didn't see it yet, but that is in there and I can show it to you. And then I know that the state is working on a cost comparison with the low energy and carbon code specifically as well.
Great, okay. So why don't you share that with Matt and then Matt can share it with the commissioners and Mike can respond to the constituent. Great.
Yep, sounds good.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely. If I could just add a couple more notes on this. First, I just really appreciate Matt's participation and leadership in the cohort. It's been critical to have him participating the way he has and collaborating to strive for the regional collaboration. One of the things that was mentioned by our technical expert on the code in our last cohort meeting is that most of the jurisdictions that she's working with that are adopting the 2024 IECC versus the LECC, they're adopting the 2024 IECC with a whole lot of the amendments that are in the LECC. So they're not typically adopting that 2024 code as is, or even with just a few amendments, they're adopting a whole lot along with it. That to me is indicative, and she said it, of the fact of just how much of an improved code the low energy and carbon code is. Again, it's not intended to be more stringent, but improved. And I'm hopeful that in our February building department staff workshop that Matt spoke of, where it's for building department staff only, not for the rest of building professionals, that we're all in the room and asking questions, and that the understanding about the LECC as not a step up, above, beyond, and hard to reach beyond the 2024, but the other aspects that it's not a step up and above beyond. It makes it, I'm hopeful that what comes out of that is it makes it an understandable code that's not scary and not something different. There's a big leap, and I'm going to fully acknowledge it, between the 2018 to the 2024. There's a big leap regardless. So whether you choose to adopt the 2024 IECC or whether you adopt the low energy and carbon code, there's going to be a big leap for the building professionals and the building department staff. And what we're trying to work with through this code grant is to really get on top of the education, the understanding, and all the details to help support that jump and the improved homes that will come out of that, that will meet carbon and climate goals of the county. So that's pretty much just all I wanted to add on that, but I really appreciate your consideration and Matt's participation.
Great. All righty, seems like are ready to move on. Matt and Kim, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we are moving on. Maura, do you have anything under attorney matters? No, okay. So we now just have manager matters and then commissioner updates. Mike, you take it away.
Okay. Well, as soon as we conclude today, I'm heading to the Telluride Senior Meals. I've had additional conversation with Andy Alexander on behalf of the Association of Realtors, as well as an Angel Baskets board member, to see how we may be able to bring the Telluride Senior Meals under the nonprofit designation of Angel Baskets, which would then allow them eligibility for receiving outside funds from Region 10 and others. I was also able to speak with Roger at the Telluride Post Office about the notice we were given regarding the Placerville Post Office and their current ownership. He is going to be working with their land specialist to make sure that they have an option should they be asked to vacate their current premise, which is owned under new ownership as of 3 years ago. We received our grant for the 2 new EV trucks. And then sadly, we're notified that Ford has chosen to stop making Ford Lightnings moving forward. So it appears we may be getting 2 of the last Ford Lightnings that they'll be making. But that was a 50% grant that Star applied for. So for the cost of 1, we're able to receive 2 of those EV trucks. Early January, it's the 5th and 6th. The charger will be installed in the courthouse parking lot. And so we'll be shifting the county clerk's parking spot over. You're going to be doing a little swap, I think, Matt, but we'll talk more about that.
I heard you were taking Subaru to Norwalk. Just kidding.
Well, we're probably going to do that too. But the goal is to have 2 EVs here at this building and then have at least 1 based out of our Norwood building. But that'll bring us up to 4 EVs for this year, which was our original goal was 5. And then we thought that was going to be highly unlikely due to the rescission of rebates, but we've still been successful in bringing on 4 for.
And does that 4 include the 2 trucks?
It does.
Yeah.
Yes. See, Road and Bridge attended their annual AVI training. Star was present with that with Road and Bridge and CDOT staff. Enrico, I attended our HOA meeting for this building, the Dave Ed HOA, and improvements are going to be made on the first floor door to make the ADA accessibility button work so that the door opens for folks that need that access. I attended the El Pomar San Juan Council meeting where they are providing funding for the youth hangout for a 3-year period to the tune of $15,000 a year. They also provided Norwood and Rico Fire with $5,000 operating grants as well. And I have made some requests for new fire equipment on behalf of Egnar Fire Department. And they are standing by for any financial assistance we may need for the Norwood Food Bank once we have a decision on where that facility will be next year.
Can you remind me?
Yes.
Maybe this is a Commissioner Gleason question. You were able, Galena and Jared, to secure an extension to the deadline of when the food bank needs to leave the school. What's that new deadline? Is there one?
It is July 2026.
Thank you.
And I'll have more in my updates on the food pantry.
Great. Lastly, Secure Rural Schools funding was authorized by the House and Senate and sent to the president for signature. I have not seen whether or not he signed those yet, but that would be 1 year of retroactive payments and then funding for the next 2 coming years.
And how much is that roughly for San Miguel County? It's not huge numbers, is it?
It is not.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
But we've been
Nothing like that.
passing on 100% of it. And even with the jeopardy, because of the PILT interplay, where if you keep any portion of your SRS funds, they're deducted from the next year's PILT payment. We went ahead and gave the SRS funding that we received last year and this year to 100% to our schools, with the hope that this bill will be reauthorized. So we're hopeful that the president will sign this and that we can get back to our normal operations. And that's all I have for right now. Do you have any questions?
No, commissioners, any questions for Mike?
And just as a side note, I did go meet with Deep Creek staff about Ophir and Silver Pick road maintenance, and specifically the policy we're working on to make sure it's in writing with the US Forest Service and the county on how and when the gates are controlled for overpass. We've learned that there's been kind of an informal practice, but we're trying to formalize that so that we can share that with the community of Ophir, as well as we've been in touch with John Weintrowski about Ophir road maintenance, and we'll continue to do so.
And you mentioned to me too that that policy would include plowing, spring plowing.
Correct.
Policies. And will that policy come to the Board of County Commissioners?
It will,
Okay.
yes.
Thank
We're
you
trying
for
to
that
get-
follow-up.
Oh, my pleasure. Making sure, I think Megan, has been busy. So once we hear corroboration of the plan from her, then we'll bring that to Town of Ophir or John first, and then with any comments, input, then to the board. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Jared, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
All right. Okay, who wants to go next?
Galina, go next, because I want to hear about anything new about the food bank situation, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jared and I attended a meeting on December 11th with the kind of newly founded Norwood Food Pantry Housing Committee. And Stephanie Grebe from Fresh Foundation, as well as Leela Seraphin, sit on that committee with April Montgomery and a community member, Nina Cothi, Jared and I. And we're putting our heads together, working to find a solution. And at that meeting, we discussed a hard deadline of solidifying a new location of June 1st of this summer, kind of in front of that July deadline, so that there's enough time to actually move. There's a general consensus that even asking for an extension at the school isn't the most favorable solution, just because of the unknowns and concerns coming from the school board about continuing to operate there. Even with the future move of the school, the board of Fresh Foundation would like to find an alternative, more solvent long-term location. So what we discussed at the meeting is, as far as county properties and the county being able to help with having, the various properties and opportunities on Wrights Mesa, the Boy Scout building that we just recently officially acquired is really attractive to potentially utilize. And I wanted to put that option out to the board today for consideration. There would need to be some deep dive into what it would take to make that space reasonable and safe and operational. But Stephanie and Leela from Fresh Foundation feel like it would be a really ideal location because it's right there at the public transportation port. There's ample room for the food bank of the Rockies truck to move in and out. It's on county property. There's a lot of yeses and support of that being a potential location. The caveat is there would need to be some sort of a mobile unit, whether that be a storage unit or a smaller mobile unit to be like an accessory dwelling to store food and yeah, kind of support the Boy Scout building being kind of the public facing space where the public could come in, pick up their food. So that is the current thought and movement of this coalition. And yeah, just wanted to kind of throw that out there to the group with thoughts. Jared has been working on the steps for potentially, looking into that building and figuring out what are the guts of that building, because I don't think anybody's really been inside to see what the electric needs are there. That is also the idea of a mobile unit adjacent to it, is there would be less demands for electricity, and even just like the weight requirements for some of those appliances. If those appliances were in another smaller unit, that it could work out pretty well. Question, Lance?
Galina, that sounds like it might be the best path forward yet. My only suggestion is maybe bumping up your decision deadline, because it may take more than a month to get whatever work needs to be done. And I have absolute confidence that you and Jared and the rest of those folks on the team, as you get that information, will adjust your timing sites accordingly. So I'm not telling you what to do, but just reminding you that construction always takes longer than it should.
Oh, 100%. I should have clarified that. With the Boy Scout building, I mean, there would need to be movement, honestly, pretty darn soon to start preparing that building and finding funding and, all the steps needed to make it adequate. But June 1st would be the hard deadline to actually move out of the school annex facility.
Got it. That sounds well played.
Yeah, but I think it could be a great long-term location, and really supportive of the Norwood Food Pantry and the community here. And it is a pretty neat historic building, so I'm excited about the potentiality of it.
Great. Well, if you're looking for support or comments from the commissioners, it sounds like Lance is in support as well as myself. So that's great. Funny how that kind of fell into our laps.
Yeah.
Or was there a major orchestration going on?
I think it was just the stars aligned. And some good minds identifying that was sitting there vacant, and Carmen did the good work of researching who actually held title to that or what. Yeah, there was a little convolution there that became very clear. So,
and if I may, I think there's definitely some opportunity there, thanks to Carmen and Nancy for all of their work on it. We were able to get keys last week, and Greg did an initial walkthrough, and it is rough, to say the least. So I think one of the ideas is that we'll walk through and kind of see how it may or may not serve, and also look at how that location in general can serve more broadly as well, because there will be companion pieces of this. So there may be a sequence that may have to take place as we move through this, but I don't want to throw any cold water on it, but when I got the report, I haven't walked through myself. I got the report that there's some rough spots that would need to be taken care of. So
Okay, well, that's a great update as well that Jared, we haven't had a chance to connect on that
Yeah.
since that meeting. So good to know. And yeah, it is a historic, very old building, so that's not surprising necessarily. And perhaps this mobile unit in also connection with Food Bank of the Rockies could even do a like mobile pull-up as maybe an interim option before I a more long-term permanent location can be solidified. That could be an option through the summer months. So we have some flexibility. What I feel very confident in is this committee that's been formed with really great minds. I'm feeling confident we're going to find a solution and we'll just keep working towards something that makes sense.
Great, well done getting the extension from the Norwood School Board and appreciation to them for that further allowance.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really grateful that Linnea and Alex came on today to give that update for Human Services. That was part of my commissioner update, but I think they did a better job than I ever could have. And so I'll scratch that one off my list and just to be continued there. Finally, I attended West End Vision Plan release and collaboration celebration in Red Vale, also on the 11th. And it was a great gathering, just the community coming together and really celebrating the process and the plan that has come to be from the West End Vision Plan 16-month it took 16 months of engagement to get that to its final version. And there were a lot of folks who attended from throughout the West End region, and notably the newly elected Montrose County Commissioner Kirsten Copeland, as well as Commissioner Sue Hansen, were present there. And there's been some bumps in the road with previous sitting Commissioner Scott Majaris, as well as Commissioner Sean Pond, and their pretty vocal non-support of this plan, which has been concerning to a lot of community members that have been giving a lot of time, energy, and feedback to the formation of this plan. But both Commissioner Copeland and Commissioner Hansen are in full support of the plan and want to see it formally adopted in Montrose County. And I see this as really important for regional alignment in future zoning, even thinking about how Montrose County could align their zoning potentially with what's in place with San Miguel County, with some of the concerns that have come up with recent development pressures and lack of zoning that would restrict such uses, as well as collaboration on shared services and potentially co-funding organizations and initiatives that have really been called out through this plan as important to the vitality of the West End communities. So it's great. I'm really excited to work with those commissioners moving forward on these collaborative ideas, projects, shared services, and yeah, just moving forward in a really positive way thanks to that West End Vision project.
That's great news. Thanks, Galina. Moving on to Commissioner Waring.
Thank you, Commissioner. I attended a CC4CA board meeting on the 19th, and we had to elect a new vice president because our sitting vice president did not win her mayoral election. So Sonia Macy's, the Routt County Commissioner, is now at that role. We passed a budget and we are kind of bracing for challenges on those fronts, environment and greenhouse gas reduction in the year to come. So we've got a budget sort of like the one that Mike and Jared prepared for us, that is various A, B, and C plans depending on how funding goes. I also attended a SSR planning meeting with Jared on the 16th, and we are working with the consultants to set up for a late January or early February meeting, and the focus will be to try to prioritize all the different possibilities that were discussed at our most recent meeting. The final update is on an Eco Action Partners meeting back on the 11th. And one of the things that I wanted to tout was that our Green Grants program for the county was extremely successful in that we had over 20 applicants. We were able to award 14 grants and $123,000 worth of improvements to residents and businesses across the county. So that feels really good, and I look forward to continuing that program next year and possibly expanding it. Quick question from Mike or Jared. Is there a lease signed with Eco Action for the coming year in the existing space? I know that was a discussion that Emma had with the county, and I believe that she received reassurance that it would be possible for them to remain, but she was unclear if the lease had been formally signed.
I'll have to check on that.
Yeah.
And happy to get back to you on that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I don't think it has to happen anytime before the holidays, but maybe early in the new year. Beyond that, everything else has been kind of constituent to Commissioner working through some questions on county roads and plowing and et cetera.
Lance, I have two questions for you, or maybe for the staff is the first one. I remember we had allocated, I think it was 200,000 towards green grants in 20. I'm just wondering what our budget allocation is for this coming year. The 123 would have come out of 2025, is that right?
Correct.
And then what did we do for 2026? Because we want to make sure that we continue to, I would like to make sure we continue to fund that. Given how successful it was just the first time.
Yeah, I know we matched it at the very least, and I think I see Mike and Jared scrambling to come up with a hard number.
Commissioners, I believe in the current year budget, because only 10,000 of the resources were spent in 2025, we simply extended the same amount into the 2026 year that we had in the previous year, and I'm digging that number up.
So does that mean the 123 won't be, actually checks won't be written until 2026?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So all of the applications or the awards that Commissioner Waring is mentioning are kind of forward-looking and will be expended down through the 2026 year. They weren't expenditures in 2025. And then I know we had discussed a little bit about what is left in the tank, because we had built up those energy fund resources over a number of years. And let me see.
Here you go. Right there.
I'm looking. So we were projected just to bring in approximately $30,000 of rent fees in the 2026 year. We brought in a lot more rent fees in 2025 than we had thought. So I think we've got the resources to extend it by the same amount or even a little bit more. But again, I don't want to speak offhand. I want to do a little bit more research.
That's fine.
I know we did just kind of extend the $100,000 that we had committed for last year into the new year. So
100?
It's 105,300.
yeah.
But they granted 123.
And we may need to do an amendment.
An adjustment,
therefore.
okay.
Right.
Do the other commissioners support, as I do, continuing green grants and supplementing as we need to out of our rent funds?
Yes, please.
Yes, and in fact, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from community members that have applied and have been pre-awarded. And there seems to be some movement with the county's contribution throughout the county. So yes.
That's great. And Lance, is the next, do you know when the next green grant cycle is?
I believe it will be the same cycle as this year, which is apply in the fall, and the committees meet after, say, late October, early November. I'm going off of kind of memory here, but that would track with when the decisions were made and the grants were awarded.
So it's just a once a year grant cycle.
Correct.
Okay. Great, that's good news.
Did you have another question, Commissioner?
Well, it was just, I was curious who the president of CC4CA is.
Oh,
If you don't know off the top of your head, I can
on the
look it
tip of
up.
my tongue, but I will get that to you.
No problem. I can figure it out because I know you were. Okay, I have just two updates. Where are they? The first one is we had a CCAT policy meeting on December 11th, and this board had discussed whether we might support the idea of a single-use plastic tax being proposed and sort of shepherded through by CCAT. And we had lots of questions about that, which were excellent. For example, how much would it generate? Who would administer it? Things like that. And in the interim, the CCAT group that was working towards that decided that there might be some other or better options than the single-use plastics. So, and in particular, some bigger hits, if you will, including possibly a real estate transfer tax allowed by counties, and then a kind of broader use excise tax authority. So it sounds to me like CCAT will not pursue a specific single-use plastics tax permission in this legislative session, but use the session as an opportunity to continue to educate legislators about the financial challenges faced by counties and the impact of continually putting unfunded mandates on us. So it's going to be, I think, a little bit more of a general effort, which I think is a great idea. And then we had a lodging tax meeting last week, Mike and Carmen and I. There was a report by the Telluride Tourism Board regarding an update on the winter lodging metrics, and they have dropped since we last received a report for the winter. Now, as of last Monday, total occupancy is expected to drop by 4% and down 7% in paid occupancy. So there is, and then revenue subsequently down 7%. So that's kind of a continuing concerns from other meetings that we've had. The kind of maybe other sort of touchy conversation that will come to the BOCC is a reaction by the tourism board to news that the San Miguel County Treasurer plans to charge a 3% fee. I'm not sure what that fee is called. I guess a treasurer's fee.
Correct.
For the first time on the lodging tax, as well as on some other taxes that the treasurer collects on behalf of the county. And the board, the lodging tax board, voted to request a refund from the BOCC on that 3% fee. So I think what will be coming up is that request, and at that time, we would, I would imagine, need to consider, if we agree to that request, what other taxing entities would be making a similar request or be entitled to a similar request. So just putting that on your radar for consideration in our future discussion. Anything to share about that, Mike, or did I capture it correctly?
You captured it perfectly.
Okay. So those were the two meetings I had. Again, we probably all know, if you're following the Daily Planet and talking to people involved with the ski patrol negotiations with TSG, that the patrol made a formal offer or counter offer, I guess, to the ski resort last night. And the ski resort is expected to respond this afternoon. I know that ski resort is having all sorts of conversations and meetings as they try to understand what exactly that counteroffer is, and then we'll take it from there. Does anyone else have anything they want to share that they've learned about that in the last couple of days? Touchy time for all of us. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody throwing anything in, so again, just good thoughts for that continued negotiation and resolution. Oh, Lance, please.
I just wanted to respond to your question. The president currently of CC4CA is Adams County Commissioner Emma Pinter.
Oh, of course, those two women. Okay. Two commissioners, I should say. All right, anything else to add, or shall I entertain a motion for you know what?
I move to adjourn.
I second that.
How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
I as well. Thank you all. Meeting is adjourned. We will be back together next on January 7th. Happy holidays to everybody. Thank you to our amazing staff.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.